To say that the National League is more interesting than its counterpart is like saying a trip to the ballpark is better than filing taxes. More competition, more loading for playoff pushes, more of a chance for spectacular implosions. What about these 15 teams? Anything in store? A new day rises in Cobb County. A glorious harvest from the farm came early with much more on the way. The desire to retain their division title fuels the hunger of every player donning the tomahawk. Ronald Acuna, a stud in the making, leading his men into battle with the sound of drums beating in the distance. Despite waiting for the farm to keep producing, they chose to go out and bring in a high-risk, high-reward candidate. Josh Donaldson on a hefty one-year prove-it deal. The NL East will be much more competitive this time around. Are you ready, Braves? The aforementioned competition most likely won't come from the Marlins, whom have chosen to continue blowing it up because reasons. What is more important, you ask? Endless pandering to the Cuban-American populace. Look, we're sorry our old manager praised Castro and our team is trash, but we got rid of that terrible home run sculpture. Look at that waste of taxpayer dollars. You still miss Jose Fernandez? Well, take a gander at these new Cubans we got. We're gonna get you back, fans. Come hell or high water, you will be back. Another season of gloriously painful Mets baseball is upon us. Last year's dumpster fire, we're not going to talk about that. We've done incredible things to move and shake our way to the top. Our new GM to replace that sick old bastard? A player agent. Yes, we hired an agent with no executive experience to oversee the team. Look at all of these wonderful names we brought in to absolutely met it up this year. Edwin Diaz, Jed Lowry, Wilson Ramos, the returning Uris Familia, Robinson Cano with an awful contract. The only way to go is up for this shining red apple. We even hired an honest-to-God woman, and she's not in the kitchen. Remember that stalemate with Jacob deGrom? We killed it in its sleep. You can say there are countless cases of this failing in the past, but I say to you asswipes, they weren't the Mets. Thank God we aren't the Knicks yet. Last year brought about a tantalizing taste of glory's past, only for it to completely collapse in a sea of awful bullpens and bats replaced with sawdust. This year, though, the Phillies are hoping that will change. The core has been loaded and supplanted with elite talent across the board. Meet the new Kings of Philly. JT Realmuto, a legit bullpen arm in David Robertson, real shortstop Gene Segura, former MVP Andrew McCutchen, and the grandest prize of all, Bryce Harper. Plucked from DC for the mere price of Independence Hall and accompanying Liberty Bell. Get used to each other, it'll be a long stay. Another fortnight late an implosion will not be acceptable. It's playoffs or bust for these boys. Now just wait until they can get their hands on the local Mike Trout.
Nope.
The hell you mean he's off the market? In typical National style, another face of the franchise has fucked off for a land hopefully past the first round. Bryce Harper has predictably fled for the highest bidder. Despite the loss, it may be for the best. Washington has reallocated the Harper money to bolster the depth throughout the organization. In particular, a new catcher in Yan Gomes and another upper echelon starter in Patrick Corbin. You gave him a shitload of money, but that's the price of such talent. This year is going to be very telling as to the future of the Nationals moving forward. If they suffer another disappointing season like the last, moves may be made to blow it up. Anthony Rendon is due a massive payday as well. Once again, the clock is ticking. Don't squander it like you did Harper. It's always hilarious when the rich cry poor. The Chicago Cubs are no exception. Instead of trying to fix their issues of chronic underachieving, their owner did nothing more besides bitch about the luxury tax. Oh no, one of the highest payrolls and recognizable teams in the sport is bitching about an arbitrary cap. The rest of the baseball world can truly sympathize with your plight. You can whine all you want, it's too bad most of your division chose to load up while you did next to nothing. If you can't unlock what should be an incredibly talented team, most of the league will be dancing on your grave. Only one thing will trigger Cubs fans more. The White Sox are winning the Quintana trade. It's been years since Cincinnati's been relevant in the baseball landscape, but they're desperate to change this thinking. The Reds have grown tired of toiling in the cellar. Joey Votto has a finite shelf life and they are choosing not to waste it any longer. Splash moves will be made to reassert the franchise back into the National League picture. Premium bats like Matt Kemp and the incredibly talented and enigmatic Yasiel Puig. Legitimate arms like Tanner Roark, Alex Wood, and Yankees exile Sonny Gray to hopefully solidify a long awful pitching core. Even if these moves fail, there are many impact talents growing on the farm. The future will rise again in a sea of red. A revolution is about to begin. The taste of a deep playoff push has galvanized the Brew Crew. The window has swung open for them, and by God, they aren't going to let it go to waste. They're pushing all of their chips to the center of the table, all in their cry towards their first franchise championship. The Moose is back at second base. But you have a legit catcher this time in LA's maligned Yasmani Grandal, a massive improvement regardless. The loading is complete, but many questions remain. Can the starting pitching maintain their strong pace? Will Christian Yelich repeat his MVP performance? Can they overcome the Dodger menace that proved too strong? There are expectations now. If they are unfulfilled, it will just be the status quo in Brewer land. This team infuriates me. This offseason was the time to prove something to all of us. This was to be the moment when this organization would fortify its ranks and make a strong case for a playoff push. Yet they do nothing! Even with the cheap talent available, management has grown arrogant and chosen to either go cheap or hope talent from within will do the trick. Huge holes were glaring at shortstop and the fifth starter, yet they chose completely unproven commodities. Once again, for the Pirates to make the playoffs, literally every single thing needs to break right for them. That is a terrible gamble to make in this current landscape. My question is this: if you're going to keep without a vision, then why the fuck did you splurge on Archer and Kella? To appease the fan base? It's hollow unless huge strides are made in development. The taste of that long-lost magic pixie dust of bullshit was beautiful. Everything clicking like it once did during the team's prime. It may have run out again, but it hasn't stopped the Cardinals from chasing it to get back to World Series glory. To help them, they went out and acquired the big bopper their team has been missing since Pujols left, Paul Goldschmidt. To prove their resolve, they gave Goldie an extension worthy of some of the finest that St. Louis has to offer. You even got an old glory in Andrew Miller, whom will probably revert to his dominant form because Cardinals. The recipe to their success has always been plugging in unsung heroes to key positions. This year's going to need more salsa, Matt. Sick and tired of the roller coaster that was last season, the Diamondbacks did something that surprised many in the baseball world. They also blew it up. Many key faces to their success either shipped off or allowed to walk in free agency. I still don't know why they did it. That kind of team needed to add to maintain consistency, but the hell do I know. As much as fans fear many favorites will be traded off throughout the season, at least they have a withered old star to keep them company in Adam Jones. Don't like it? We'll take this Wilmer Flores and Greg Holland and shut up. They would have been swept in the first round anyway. Unlike their desert counterparts, the Rockies were motivated by their playoff sweep and chose to keep the band around for another tour. Nolan Arenado is a Colorado legend in the making. A star like him should be kept and cherished to build a team around. How about several craft breweries and marquee ski resorts to keep in Denver? You like land? How about several hundred acres? Here's a Daniel Murphy to replace DJ LeMahieu too. The key to the Rockies is consistency. There was nowhere near enough of it last year. If the team goes ice cold for long stretches again, it may be a bitterly cold October for the organization. Another year where the Dodgers play bridesmaids to a better AL team in the World Series. Another year where most of the baseball world lacks sympathy for their plight. A lot of depth is left, but it's not because LA wasn't trying. The rest of the NL is loading, so they too shall load. AJ Pollock for the outfield and World Series hero Joe Kelly for the pitching core. Maybe Corey Seager can return at peak form for another chance at redemption. Or perhaps Clayton Kershaw can have questions about the health of his shoulder and be sidelined for the start of the year. Looks like they also didn't shake off the injury bug. The Padres have long been an afterthought in the grand scheme of baseball. Great shakeups to their lineup often resulting in massive disappointment sandwiched in between years of rebuilding. Today, San Diego is ready to re-emerge. The face to their renaissance, a top prize in free agency. The Padres swooping in to surprisingly acquire his services. Manny Machado. In all of his dirty, allegedly lazy glory, he was given a wholesome beachfront mansion and rights to a future NFL franchise. They couldn't do anything about the state taxes, though. This year isn't expecting much from the Padres, but it's time for that fabled farm to start producing a legitimate harvest. It will go a long way to validating this long-lost franchise. Giants, this is the part of the episode where all good things go to die. It's an unfortunate fate, but it's one that all dynasties go through. You have reached the end. You may be experiencing feelings like denial, guilt, regret, and want to compromise with it, but such a fate waits for nothing. Years of desperately trying to keep the fires of the old glory lit have cost the team much of its soul. All that remains is a withered husk of what was once great. Legendary manager Bruce Bochy is stepping aside at the end of the year. Brian Sabian also retiring to pasture. The team CEO getting into a physical altercation with his wife. As attempting to get Bryce Harper failed, the death spiral begins without mercy. Mad Bum's anger will make sure of that. At least you had a good run, guys. The National League is pretty tough to gauge this time around. There are a lot of teams who could make a valid case for playoff ball. Nobody really looking down and out, but then again, it's why you play the season. For divisions, I'm going with the Phillies, Brewers, and Dodgers on preliminary thinking. Wildcards are even more competitive. Since the NL East plays a really weak AL Central in Interleague, I'm going with the Braves and Nationals. A lot of teams I feel barely miss out this time around, just like last year. Play ball again, boys. At least before the MLB and Players Union butt heads again.
From the top on down, here comes a 1-2 pitch. Red Sox win the World Series. 5-1 the final tonight. And the best team in baseball wins it all in 2018.